Sorry, I had to cut the last my anime list review rating chill hangout that I was doing in half, but I'm back. I'm not as orange this time in the lighting, so that's cool. Sorry if it gets progressively darker, the window's just open. And where we left off, we were at Hellsing. Oh man, I didn't realize how many more there was still to go. I planned on getting halfway, but I didn't. So, let's see. What are my options? I gotta reposition myself. What are my options for Hellsing? You see, the thing is that I watched both the original Hellsing and Hellsing Ultimate and some of the OVA, but I could not tell you the difference between any of them. So the one that I'm referring to would be Hellsing Ultimate. That was the one that I watched, and I definitely rated. It was the first one I watched, and I think I went back afterwards to see how much it had changed, kind of like what I did with Devilman. So since I gave the Ultimate 7.5, I'm going to give the original good, and then I'm going to round Hellsing Ultimate up to a 8, because it's fucking classic. It's Hellsing, Alucard is Bae. You know how it is. Like, what do you want from me? I remember watching it as a kid, and, well, not as a kid, but it was one of the first animes that I ever watched, and I was super impressed with its animation compared to a lot of the other ones that I'd kind of been dipping my toe into. I know I started with a lot of slice of life anime, which I learned I didn't really like, but at the same time it appealed to me because I was a stupid teenager going through stupid teenager things. So compared to that, this just blew my mind, and I realized that I was in the wrong genre. In case you're wondering, I am indeed wearing a house coat. It's very flashy. My friend and only patron at the moment got it for me, and if I get up, you'll see it has Slady on the back, but we'll save that for a special reveal some other time, maybe. Okay, so next we have High School of the Dead. Yes, you would not think that someone like me had watched that, but I have. I think it's kind of a rite of passage for anybody that was getting into anime back then. I am giving it... You see, the thing is, it had a very specific audience in mind. It was supposed to be over the top in the highly sexualized, kind of stupid way. And at the time, I didn't hate it. I found it enjoyable. And the one character, the fat guy? No. Yeah, the fat guy. He was my favorite. He made me laugh a couple times. I'm gonna give it an average, honestly, because it did exactly what it intended to do. And I can't fault it for that. I can't say it's bad because it was trying to do something special or better. It was a horny zombie high school anime. Oh my god, Inuyasha. Inuyasha's next. Whew, boy. I saw that they've come out with a new one, which I'm assuming, based on literally the only picture and the only thing I've seen of it is Sesshomaru and Rin's kid, which I don't know if all of a sudden they're like, whoa, we need more money and we have to, like, go in there, or I don't know what the fuck inspired this, like, literally decades later to bring Inuyasha back. But Inuyasha itself was legitimately the first anime I ever watched. So, I didn't consider Inuyasha an anime at the time. I thought it was just a bit of a more adult show. I didn't know what anime was. All I knew was that slightly gorier cartoons came on after 9 o'clock on YTV. And the very, very first thing I saw that got me into it was, like, episode 2 of Inuyasha, where the hair demon with her comb comes after them, and Inuyasha has to stick his hand through her chest, through her titties, and I was like, oh my god. this shit is wild, and it kind of blew my mind. And that was like my first experience with like, whoa, this is a little bit older than I'm used to, but I fucking love it. So technically Inuyasha was my first anime. My next one that I actually like watched was Full Metal Alchemist, the original, because Brotherhood wasn't a thing back then. And then I'd say came Bleach, then came Eureka 7, and then Naruto. And then it all just becomes a mess after that. As soon as I got access to my own computer, I could watch my own anime, so that's where I got Code Geass and Claymore. But based on what I could only have from a TV, that this was the start of it. He ruined everything. So I have actually finished Inuyasha. They didn't, like, I wasn't super invested in it. By the time they actually got to the end, I was kind of, like, bored because they'd been on so many similar adventures. And it was like, oh, yay, it's all wrapping up. But then it didn't all really wrap up. It kind of had a lot of loose ends as a, you know, these people are going to keep doing their adventures and all that shit, like, without you watching from this point forward in a very solidified, like, there's not really a mystery, they're just going to keep living, like, everything's going to be the way it is, and will continue to be, and I was just kind of like, meh. So, it has a very good, like, it has a very special place in my heart. Sango and Moroku are, like, the best part of it. It's the only reason to watch it for the most part, because Inuyasha and Kagome are just like a toxic relationship and stupid. So it's hard to give it anything bad. It's a staple. It started everything. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of respect. Realistically, if I take into account all of the filler in the later arcs, if I watched it again as an adult, it would probably be all the way down to like a 4 or 3 or something, because I do not deal with filler shit. That is a part of your story that you chose to fuck. And that should reflect in the writing and whatnot. Okay, so I watched Is This a Zombie? A long time ago. Is that what this is? Oh my god, it is. Jesus Christ. Why is she so familiar? Should I remember this? I don't remember this. But I did watch it. I watched the whole darn thing. Whole 12 episodes. I'm gonna give it an average because I don't remember, but it wasn't enough to hate it. So, you know. I remember it being really cute, and that's all that really matters. Okay, so, K. Originally, I gave it a 5 out of 10. It felt like there was more to it that I just wasn't getting. Whether it be in the manga, an OVA, some kind of spin-off, like movies, I don't know. There was something missing in K. There are so many characters underdeveloped. Their world was underdeveloped. Because of this, I didn't really enjoy any of the time I spent with the characters. Somehow I watched a whole anime, and yet none of them stood out or were special. They didn't really dive into the real conflict between the blue and the red people like they could have, and it was pretty basic when it comes down to it once you do find out. So it's like there's no real payoff. A whole feud starts because some guy dies at the start and you never, like, care about who he was in the first place. The main character is literally, like, so aside from what's actually going on in the physics of the universe and the gang wars. It's, like, ridiculous. He's just some random guy who has a girl cat familiar, and he's just, like, gets inserted eventually, but they're basically 2 separate stories for the most part that, like, entwine in the most irrelevant sort of ways. We learn that there is a larger scope to the universe. There must be other kings, places over other cities, and we never get any of that. The world itself could have been a genuine, like, shonen series, but we just got this, like, fragmented, very short, undeveloped thing. And I kind of hated it. It was not enjoyable. I watched the whole thing because I felt like I was going to see more of that world. I thought that I was going to get, at least, like, after I finished that, I'd get an OVA and, like, they do a different adventure or whatever, but it was just so unfulfilling, and I did not have a good time by the end. I don't know how it has a 7.5. Like, visually, it's fine. It's got a lot of iconic things in it, but, like, the actual writing itself, which is what, like, weighs me down the most when it comes to rating things, was just really upsetting by the end. I'm putting it very bad because it had a lot of potential. I ended up watching all of it. I didn't DNF it, but it was not good. So, Kakegurui, I actually just published an article on it on Medium if you're interested. You can find it in my links in bios and stuff. I'm very bad at actually linking things to videos, for which I'm sorry, but if you want to find it, it's on Medium under my account. You just have to type in Kakegurui. I'm sure it'll pop up. So I watched this originally by myself, but then I watched it with my boyfriend afterwards because he likes hot, cute girls, and I like sharing them with him. The animation was so beautiful, so interesting. If you don't read the article, I'll just summarize it, is that I really appreciated that Kakegurui focused, like, they have very pretty girls. It's highly sexualized in some of the ways, like, they get off during their gambling, but when something happens, the animators weren't afraid to make them ugly. And I really appreciated that. Although you could have stuck to just having them pretty all the time, some animes are just, like, 2D as fuck. They barely put in a nose and mouths. Kakegurui really made it feel like these characters were 3D in their own universe. They'd have wrinkles on their nose when they got mad. They'd have spittle fly when, like, they yelled at somebody. It just felt very aesthetically beautiful, but also a little less appealing than other sorts of anime like this. That said, I really liked Yumeko, and I liked that the boy in it didn't insert himself into his life as a romantic interest. He just respects her as a compulsive gambler. He doesn't try to change her. She's her own autonomous being, and although it is just an anime about gambling, the stakes are always getting a little bit higher, even if you don't particularly care about the people involved, and the games are always different, kind of like the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, where he'd go from playing poker to Russian roulette. So I just really enjoyed it. I think it's a really good anime to show to somebody that doesn't want to watch anime that's, like, trash. Well, it's like, you can have pretty anime without it being trash. I'm giving it an 8. It was very good. Okay, Konosuba. I've only watched Konosuba recently. I thought it was really cute. I can't wait to watch the second season. I regret that I haven't yet, but I don't think it was entirely out when I'd watched the first season, so I couldn't. I don't think it was particularly amazing. Like, I don't want to give it a 9. It didn't break any boundaries, but it was just so thoroughly enjoyable that it's a solid 8. The best kind of isekai. Well, if they didn't have Avatar The Last Airbender, they're not going to have Korra on here, so I can just skip that one. Okay, so here's one that might be a little contested among other people. I don't know. Okay, never mind. It's got an 8. So the feelings were mutual. I was really surprised by this one. I thought I'd just, like, watch a Netflix anime and, you know, see what happened. I didn't expect to actually, like, enjoy it. I thought that although the storyline was very basic and some of the characters you can expect are going to do certain things because they were based on other mythical or legendary characters of the same name, you can sort of figure out what's going to happen. But at the same time, they managed to pull off, like, a Zuko character, and I was just super into it. I didn't like Alibaba, he's fucking stupid. But overall, the world itself was very cute. Like the powers. I don't know. I just thought it was good. And for some reason, it made me cry at one point. We're not talking about it. But it was just like, it was so thoroughly good at the average sort of storyline it was doing that you kind of forgot about the things that you were expecting and still managed to affect me. So I'm going to give it an 8 because it was very good. Not perfect, but very good. Oh, I also watched the spin-off Sinbad one for Magi, but they didn't finish it. I don't know if they're planning on finishing it. It says finished airing. It says 13 episodes. Hold on. Let's just look into this for 1 second. Oh, never mind. You didn't see any of that. That was my Netflix passwords and stuff. Okay, so yeah, I did watch the whole thing. It stopped at 13 episodes. The reason I thought it wasn't done was because, I don't know, there were more there was more stuff to happen. We hadn't met him in Magi yet, so I was just waiting for that. But that's, neither here nor there. I thought it was good. It was fine. It was fun. It wasn't amazing. It was like, it was a story off of another world that I was already invested in, so it was hard not to have a good time. Some of the, you know what, I'm going to put it up to a very good, because I thought some of the situations were very cute. And I shouldn't downgrade my mark unless I've watched it again thoroughly. Next, Mob Psycho. So, Mob, obviously, gets a fucking 10. 10 out of 10, masterpiece. Just go watch it. It's amazing. Now, the second season, maybe the second season was not as good. And that's not just because second seasons tend to not be as good. I felt like the storyline was a lot less compelling. Not just because Mob wasn't struggling with his powers quite so much, and it was nice to see him realize himself. Like, his arc with his mentor was amazing. It was just some of the episodes throughout the season were a bit lacking. The development of the opposing, bad guys wasn't quite so thorough as I'd wanted. One of the bad guys, the one with the umbrella that becomes his friend, I just, that sort of stuff in an anime that does such a good job at subtly defining its characters through what they say or don't say, or what they do or don't do in a very, humble Japanese society, was kind of all of a sudden we have these new people that we don't really care about as much as the original ones, and they just kind of get inserted without a whole lot of hype, in my opinion. So, the second season, honestly, gets a very good. A very good. Oh, shit, they have... they have different My Hakadir... Okay, so, in my life, have not decided on which season of My Hero was the best season. I think the first one was amazing. It was extremely hyped. I just loved it. There was no point where I didn't want to just go to the next episode. Second season, I'm still gonna give it a 10. I don't care. Now, the third season is where we could say it dropped off a little bit. Let's take a look. See, I was not a huge fan of this shit right here, but I did like this arena, so we're gonna give it a 9, because it was great. The newest season, however, I was not, and I think I share this with a lot of people, we were not super into Overhaul. That's his name, right? We didn't care as much about this teacher no spoilers, but like we didn't care that much about him. He was in it more than All Might, and there was a epic fight with All Might. I don't like we got this season. We got a lot more of some of the people that I really wanted to see. A lot more interactions between other characters. A lot of different kinds of teamwork. My boy, right there, my boy. Oh God, I love him. And Fat Gum with his little, like, I should have seen it coming, but as soon as it happened on screen, I was like, oh shit, boy, he's kind of a bae. So there were some like really great moments in this season too, but like Eri and Overhaul, it was just not like everything outside of those two specifically being on screen was amazing. So that's why it's kind of hard to rate it, because they were the whole point of the season, you know? I'm still gonna give it a grade. Like, I can't not. I enjoyed watching it so much, I'm gonna watch it again. It's a little biased. I don't feel like I'm being completely objective with this one. Oh, do they have, They do. I'm just gonna throw My Neighbor Totoro to an 8, because honestly, I don't feel like the story itself is very compelling. Like, it's just pretty meh. The visuals, though, the visuals and the vibes and the, like, kid shit that all of us have for Totoro, can't give them lower than that. Okay, let's see how it splits Naruto up. It better just be a fucking collective. Thank God. Whew, okay. So, Naruto on my list, he was good. I don't know, like, he wasn't amazing. He had a lot of flaws. He was good. He's got vibes. Now, Shippuden is going to get a worse score. I don't know if people are going to fucking agree with that, but there was just so much. Shippuden had a lot of hype. It had a lot of good characters growing up, a lot of development. It also had a fuck ton of unnecessary filler. It had some wishy-washy outs. There were way too many flashbacks, which feels kind of like shitty to downgrade their mark because of that, because in a lot of cases they have to drag things out to keep up, like, for the manga to catch up and so on and so forth. But at the same time, as a thing itself, it makes you very boring. It makes you, like, skippable. Like, what's the point of watching or rating something well if you got to the end and thought that the concept was good, if you did not have a fun time watching literally 70% of it because it was all flashbacks and not fun at all? So that's why this is going to have to sit at a 6 for me. There's a lot of great moments in it. I mean, you know, I also just found, you know what? Fuck it, we're downgrading him again. Because the ending, although extremely interwoven throughout the entirety of the story, like certain storylines popping up and up and up again, it all came together in such an odd way. It honestly felt like it was kind of handed to us, like, here you go, we're just gonna explain everything all at once now because we have to. It wasn't as much of a progressive figure it out sort of thing, because this person had that narrative and that one had that narrative, which was completely different, and that one got tricked and this one was being used, and that one, like, I don't know, it's just, like, props for what they were trying to do in the story that they were telling, but it was just, like, too much of Naruto talking the villain out of doing the wrong thing and converting him to being a good guy. It's like, you can only do that so many times, and then you're just ruining your own characters. They're not, like, everybody isn't inherently good. There were no, like, I mean, I guess Orochimaru and Kabuto were probably still bad guys, but, like, there were no real bad guys in the end. It was just like, we all have a heart, we can all change for the better good. It's like, you sure about that? Okay, so One Punch Man, the first season, is an absolute gem. I loved every second of it. I loved the characters. I loved how it ended, because it was just like, I just wanted to watch more. I wanted more and more and more and more. If you follow me on Medium, or maybe I did do a video on this, I believe. But the second season was quite a disappointment because I wasn't into Garo. although it gave us a lot of contextual stuff we needed about the universe as a whole to move forward, unfortunately it couldn't keep up the hype, and it got sidetracked. It got sidetracked for the purpose of coming back to where it wanted to, so we would be ready when everything happened in season 3, and we got like what we were hoping for, but season 2 was a lot of build up. So it can't get as nice a score. It's gonna get a very good. Okay, so something that I don't think I talked about was that I watched P4 the animation, because my boyfriend is a huge Persona fan, and I wanted to have a little bit more of a reference for all of, the things that he loves. I do not think that this animation was what was going to do it for me, and it was not a good introduction to Persona as a beloved thing. But at the same time, that game style of Persona games is not something that I would want to play, so this was just about the only thing I could really do for that. P4 was something that I kind of we put on in the background at certain points and did not pay attention to because it was so basic, it was so obvious, it was boring, it was mundane. There was one episode that completely triggered me. That was the two girls coming into their own with their... What are their alter ego things called? Shadows? No. Those are the bad things. Either way, they're getting introduced into the group. One of them is struggling real hard. Her other friend wants to help her out. And the story should have been about them two working through it together, strengthening their friendship, which is already pre-developed. And, a lot of their concerns were about the problems and stigmas around being a girl and having girls for friends, like the inherent jealousy, that sort of shit. And then the boy characters come in and help them both get through it. Like, they're detrimental in what happens, even though it was definitely a fucking conflict between the two of them that they should have worked through on their own to become self-realized and their own competent human beings. So that pissed me right off. Apart from that, I can't say much about it because my expectations from that were so lowered that I didn't find any of the rest of the logic that the characters go through in their storyline. Nothing surprised me anymore. Nothing could disappoint me more than what had happened, and there's a complete lack of reasoning at certain points near the end when everything's coming together. It's a bit crazy. So, although I don't like giving things bad scores if they are not technically harmful, if its animation was very pretty, but in another way, I think a hard criticism for P4 is that it was an animation made for Persona 4 fans. It was not an animation that was made to introduce anyone to the fandom. It was not an animation that was made for you to get attached to anything that you weren't already attached to. The main character summons creatures here, there, and whatnot, and many of them, when they appear, are kind of like, oh, am I supposed to care about that? Is that a big deal? Am I supposed to know what its powers are? Where did you even get that from? Where was I when that happened? It just skips around a lot, and I know they can't show everything because you're not playing the game and there are a variety of different playthroughs. But at the same time, they did a very bad job getting somebody new or somebody that doesn't know about Persona in the first place to get invested in the characters and how everything plays out. So, unfortunately, I'm gonna give it a 3. I don't even care. So, Ouran High School Host Club was a dear favorite of mine as a teenager. Even to this day, I'll watch it to feel good. I think I've probably watched it 3 or 4 times. I know it doesn't seem like my kind of show, but honestly, I just felt like it was well done, really lighthearted, but dealing with some other issues underlying. I don't know. It's very cute, and it doesn't do anything extremely wrong or offensive in a show that you really think would. I'm sure some people might disagree with me, but I didn't take it that way. I really connected to several of the characters, and I thought that it was meaningful and just adorable in some parts. So it gets an 8. It's also very meta. Ouran High School Host Club is very meta in its humor, which I think sets it above other slice of life too. They don't take themselves too seriously. There's still manga elements in it. So I watched Princess Jellyfish a long time ago. I don't 100% remember it. I remember wanting to watch it because of the concept behind it, obviously. That would appeal to me as a young girl. The whole glam up or like self-realization that you don't have to glam up sort of thing. That said, it didn't leave a lasting impression after that fact. I can't tell you exactly